live streaming. Got it. Oh, hello guys, welcome to our meetup. Today we have a special guest from Australia. Probably we now will cover all the world. So last stream we have Alistair from Africa, Oliver from Brazil, and Cyber from United States. So Signum all over the world. Today we have no giveaways. It's
my bad.
Can you explain, Cyber, why we don't have giveaway?
I would be glad to embarrass myself just a little bit more. I I was confusing Shifas and O'Hager. I was conversing with O'Hager about the giveaway, and I sent the items to him, and he was probably confused, but he went along with it. And so when it came time for the giveaway today, I realized that I was talking to the wrong person and was completely leaving Shifas in the dark about it. So he'll have to get those
Next time.
Yeah, he'll have to get those, and next time there will be two.
So I will start stream by showing some community stuff. So this is a TMG token. We showed it maybe 2 or 3 streams ago. It is created by Delitarium. Here you can use Cigna to mine TMG token. You can see here picker stats. It is a smart contract which holds balance and accepts deadlines from miners. So when you create miner, you create your smart contract. You can add funds to this. Let's see, add them. It all connects to Signum XT wallet, which is extension to a browser. Copy. Here I added some balance for my miner, and you can current mine give some intensity for your miner. It is now for me is 1 Cigna. Here you can see overall mining intensity is 215, so I have very low chance to win TMG token. So every block, 1 TMG token is forged and sent it to mining winner. So all and TMG tokens are used in various games. So now most popular, I think, is TMG Cup. Here, all the flags are tokens, and you can buy them by spending some TMG and Cigna. And later, when football champion will be known, winner will get this pot. Now 7 persons collected all the flags. You can here you can see persons who have these tokens, and you can trade them directly by using BTDEX or by any web wallet or something. Next one, I will show new stuff. This is Signum Twitter tipbot. Some guy from Discord, it is I think London MP, proposed idea to create some Twitter bot, and we decided that it will be a good thing for community. And Oliver, I, Timo, and Underpants will do this tipper bot. Here you can see some starting. I created some account for Twitter bot donations. Here you can see 10,000 from London MP. It is a person who had this idea, and not only idea, but give it some Cigna. Here you can see some 2 other people's donators. So everyone can send some Cigna, and probably we will do it faster. Next one, I will show Signum community website. This is a website of documentations. It is, I think, have new design. Well, it is created by Desrecendo. Here you can find various articles, documentations. And today we will speak about, let me see here, not here, about mining. Here you can read about our mining. I must do some introduction, but I'm not sure I can do it because I don't know, I'm not so into doing it. So Valerios, can you help me? You are muted.
Yeah, well, not now.
I probably will not do this introduction. I'm not feeling good to doing it. Maybe you can start your presentation.
Yeah, certainly can do that. So my name is Brian. I go by online as Valerios or BTFG. I've been in the Sigma community back to when it was still Burstcoin. In fact, 2 developer teams ago is when I joined up into Burstcoin. Now, back then, there was no commitment. You just basically is whatever you had plotted onto your hard drives, that's what you mined with. What we ended up having a problem with at one point in time was that the large server farms, which is the same thing you get with every other coin, you get these groups that come together and able to get a lot of cheap hardware, cheap power, that sort of thing. And they were starting to win all of the blocks. When commitment came in, it was actually a big game changer. And it's a really good thing for the commitment coming in there because it means that a person with, say, a 16 terabyte hard drive who's mining with no commitment is on the same level playing field as a person with a 2 terabyte hard drive with average commitment. And the reason why that's important is it means that because Burstcoin and Signum has always been about bringing cryptocurrency back to the family, back to the home miner, not these huge ASICs or these huge server farms. And being able to say, okay, well, you've got just a home PC that only has maybe a 2-3 terabyte hard drive, but you can mine just as powerful as somebody with larger hard drives, just put the commitment in. So commitment as an idea was an absolutely great creation by the Signum network. And I think it's actually caused there to be more interest in the actual mining because suddenly, as I said, you didn't need like 5, 16 gig or terabyte hard drives to be able to win blocks or to be participating on a farm. There has been some concerns that was brought up about that how the average commitment was calculated was a little bit cherry picked, not because anyone was specifically cherry picking them, but because the winners are the ones that actually determine what the averages are. So I'd actually decided to sit down and actually do the math, take some real data, some random data, see what exactly happens with the network. And so just to basically give you an idea of how average commitment is done at the moment is whenever a block is found, the network checks that miner and sees what their average commitment is at that time. It then takes the average commitment, divides it by or multiplies it by 23, so that it's kind of gets the what it would have been for the last 23 blocks, adds the new commitment, divides it by 24. This creates what's called like a roaming average. So it's for most of the part, it tends to be the average of the last 24 blocks. It's not exact because of how the math works. So you do end up having like a block, a block with a miner with a lot of commitment might actually be having some residual dust effect, like 50 blocks in. But usually after 24 blocks, it's not a big addition, doesn't really affect anything. So I'm going to share my screen here. I just want to show some of the math that I was doing, specifically on how some of the, there we go, specifically on how the average commitments are actually spread across in the network. So this graph right here, this is just a histograph. And I have this set to where these large spikes you see at the end, this is about 10% on each end of what we call outliers. So about 80% of our miners are giving between about 15 to just about here, about 10,000 Signum per terabyte is what they're average. With most of them being, as you can see here, most of our members are actually only giving about 1,000 to 1,400. So that's where some of the impressions that the average is not accurate is coming from, because when you look at any of the pools and stuff like that, most of the people you see is going to be around this 1,000 range. But that's not the entire story. You have to look at what the averages are, because these large amount of people that's here, so most of these are producing, this is 200 people producing over 30,000 Signum per terabyte. So that tends to push the averages up. Whereas you also have these large amount of people that are producing almost none, that's actually pushes the averages back down. So this data here was about 2,000 blocks of data that I had gathered from, starting from block, was at 1,063,002. I got the information from the block average, and this is from the blockchain. So all this information here is from the blockchain. It's not, most of it not been like mathematically adjusted with estimates. It's just pulled exactly off the blockchain. I then went through with a program that looked at all the entire chain and got the individual minter's average at the time that he mined the block. And as well as just to get more data, I went through and got the information from all the members of the pool that person was a part of, so I can get what's called a pool average, get a better idea of what the average commitment on that entire pool was. And this is what I came up with here. So this blue line right here is what the current network says that the average commitment was over time. The yellow line is what it would be if you had calculated with the entire pool's commitment, and the red line is if you just determined it off of like individual miners' numbers at the time that they mined the block. Now, to be fair on this one, this blue line is as you can see right in the middle, is a really good average of these two numbers, and it's a lot less intensive on the network. These methods that I used here for the minter average and the pool average, it took me to get 2,000 blocks of information. It took about 2 hours of just going through the chain and recursively getting all this information. Prohibitively expensive to do those for the network. But I did want to see how the way that we currently do it compares to if you took a more robust measurement. So right now, I can say here that, okay, the commitment is about the middle, so we're getting what I consider the best of both worlds. But we can take that a little bit further and look at this numbers down here. And I'm not sure if you guys can see these down here. I'm going to try to zoom that out a bit. Wait a second. So what I've done here is, so in mathematics, there's two different types of ways of looking at numbers. You got your average, which this is what everyone understands. you sum everything together, you divide it by the total number you got, and you get an average. So in that 2,000 blocks, we averaged about a commitment ratio of about 4,739 per terabyte. The second way you can do it is get what's called a median. And that's where you say, okay, what point do 50% of the data is below that? And which part of that is 50% of the data is above that? And for our chain, this has actually ended up to be about 4,791, which is good because in a perfectly distributed data, your average and your median should be identical. And that's one way that we can look at it and say, okay, how's our numbers working? Now, right here, the second portion right here, I decided to take that individual miner data that I extrapolated off the market. And as you can see here, the average miner using that method is still within 200 of what the network's calculation is. And this is a good thing. This means is that on average, the system that we currently have in place actually produces similar information as if you were to just take all the miners' exact information at the time they found the blocks and average them together. Here, this median, it's low simply because, as I showed you over here, that's where the majority of our miners are at. That's how much they're producing. So 50% of our miners are on this end here. So 50% of our miners are producing more than about 1,500 per terabyte, whereas the other half is producing less than that. Because where this median is at, we got so many people here actually producing, that's what's actually pushing the average up. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that we got an interesting thing on the market is we got people that are either producing or supplying no commitment or a lot of commitment. So there's not as many people in that mid ground as we would expect there to be. And I think that's just a matter of like spreading the word that actually the commitment makes your mining better. It doesn't matter how big a hard drive you have. If your actual maximum of your hard drives that you can have, add the commitment. Just start building up 50% of your mining, put it in there. Make sure that you get that commitment building, because that commitment means that you're actually more effective in using your drives. Now, one of the other issues that was mentioned to me, and again, when we did the math is most people will say that about how much these numbers jump. So this number right here, as I said, when I did this blog, it went everywhere from like a low of about 2,700 to a high of about over 7,000 in a period of 2,000 blocks. And this is a lot of up and down motion. And it does average out over time, but as I said, there's a lot of concern that this jumps are coming over like short block periods, such as like right here, this was a matter of probably about 10 blocks that it suddenly jumps like a good 1,000 commitment. To fix for this, probably from my math has discovered, is if we increase the averaging time, it doesn't change the numbers, but it will actually change how much noise you have in the system. In this case here, large commitments or no commitments will have a smaller effect over a long period of time. But still, if everyone's like putting in their commitment on a regular basis, over time, yep, the numbers will increase, the number decrease, but you don't have all this huge noise function happening. But at this point in time, that's just a quick brief of the mathematics I was doing. And so, yeah, the thing of this one is the commitment fair. The commitment is certainly definitely fair for the smaller miners. And the information that we show here as well is that, yeah, there might be a bit of a selection bias happening, but from my math has shown it's actually to the benefit of the smaller miners, which is something we always want. Anything we put in should benefit the smaller miners, because that's what Signum and that's what Burstcoin was originally founded on, was to bring the mining back to the smaller miners. And yeah, back to you.
Yes, its main idea is decentralization, and if we have centralized mining, no point in cryptocurrency if it is centralized. we had question about our choice to lock our block rewards to 100 Cigna per block. What do you think about this, Valeria?
I mean, when the Signum first started, I mean, when I first started, our block rewards were in the thousands, and we had a lot of miners on there because at one point in time, I can show evidence where our block rewards were like 1,000 Signum was worth like $60 USD at one point in time. But the problem you have is with any other thing is like they have to decrease the block rewards because you can't produce infinite amount of the coin, because then you have inflation effect happens, it starts devaluing the coin. But at the same time, if it drops too low where it becomes like, well, it's not worth mining, people will just stop mining it. Having it locked at 100 means is that the rewards are still happening and everyone's getting decent rewards out of it. And then we also have things in place that are actually burning the tokens. So we got the ability to say, okay, these tokens that came to the network, we're burning some of them, but we're producing more. For a coin to be long-term stable, you have to realize that there's going to be what we call the hoarders, and people are just going to get coins and hold on to them. They've effectively removed it out of the system, but they're still there. You have to be able to continually interject new coins into the system, but at the same time, you need to pull coins out of the system to maintain your balance. And 100 Signum per block win is actually a really good number to pick, because it's not a lot of coins that the network can become oversaturated, and it gives us the ability to reasonably burn tokens so that the overall circulation of coins tries to remain about as stable as possible.
Yes, and we do not need to create some many fees. So we are creating, we look at this on, it was idea that fees will cover block rewards, but when we look at it at 100, there is changed approach totally. So now we can burn fees. So main idea from your presentation that we have extremes on both ends. So many miners do not commit, and some miners commit a lot. And your idea is that commitment is a good thing, and if people will commit, they will be better for network.
It would be. So I mean, you're not going to be able to. I mean, as I said, you got this huge range that's in there, and this is why we're getting the huge fluctuations, because sometimes because I can show. I'm just going to share my screen again because I want to show this specifically here. So we've got over here is, I'm just going to move this out of the way. So this here, this min or average right here, these are the spot numbers. These are the ones that, this is based off of the POC plus boost formula that is there. So, which is a recursive formula. It means that every time a block is found, your actual mining that you do depends on basically is what your current effective terabytes you're mining with versus your commitment. So your actual commitments boost will change block to block because it's reaching a sort of equilibrium point. But at the same time, you still have these huge ranges of there. So here's somebody who has a 10,000 commitment, won a block. This person here has no commitment. That one there has 159. We have a person down here with 68,000 per terabyte. So there's not a real correlation between more commitment equals more blocks found, but it does put you more on equal ground with those who have the large hard drives. And the thing is, like, with this huge fluctuations that we have here with the block winners and their actual minter average, this is what causes the block averages the network uses to fluctuate so much, is because there's such a huge difference between the low end and the high end. If that difference was not so much, then you would see that this block average would be a lot more stable over time than it is now.
And probably in the long run, it must be average. I mean, it's. I think we have this situation. I don't know. It is not normal, I think.
Yeah, so over time it will average. That, as I said, that's why, as I said, that probably at least for now, increasing like the number of blocks that we're using, that the network is averaging it over, will help get rid of some of that ups and downs, and give the miners a little bit more confidence and the ability to say, okay, the average commitment right now is about this. I need to put this much on there, and know that that will probably be about the right number for a decent time, and then they can just check it. And but see, at the moment, is like they don't know block to block. It might be suddenly in 10 blocks time, the commitment is nearly doubled, and which cuts their earnings down. Whereas that's just a short-term jump, and it's going to come back down in the next terms. But it's, as much as I said, the way we do things now is it's fairly accurate from what I can see. It's the perception that now that we've got to change, is that the commitment is more stable than so it's because our commitment is stable. It stays about the same over time anyway. We just need to be able to show people that yes, it is stable. These jumps are just statistical blips, and that's all these are. The price is jumping from this almost to 2,000 going up to almost 7,000 is just because statistically sometimes we'll get these people that have zero on there, sometimes we'll get them that have higher, but because we got more higher than we have lower end, that's what tends to push the number up toward this 5,000 mark at the moment.
So from technical side, it is not a problem, but it's problem from user experience side.
Exactly. It's exactly. More of it's definitely a problem more of the user experience side than the technical side. Yes, because as I said, over time, the formula that Signum is using right now is a pretty good formula over a long period of time. However, it causes large amount of fluctuations in the short term.
So I guess there is no point of hard fork. I don't know. Because to change this average, we need to do hard fork, or to do hard fork, we need, I don't know, it's always problems.
Yeah, well, see, as I said, it's like when I put in the SIP. So right now, putting this to 24, this is how the system does it now. And as I said, I'm going to let me get rid of one of these series here just to. All right. So we'll get rid of that one. So this is what the network has done right now. This is over 2,000 blocks. So this is the actual information from the network recorded over those 2,000 blocks. And you can, as I said, this is where you get this short-term fluctuation happening that causes these numbers to drop all the way down, go all the way up. But the average has always been around this spot right here, around the 4,500-ish.
Sorry, 2,000 blocks is about 3-4 days?
Yes. So this is how much fluctuation you're having in the average commitment over a period of like 3 to 4 days with the current.
So in one day, it can change from 3,000 to 5,000.
Yes.
I can see.
And whereas if we were to increase this to, as I said, with my suggestion, I put 360, your average still stays the same. It doesn't change, but the periods of drop and rises ended up going there. So in this case here, over that same period, you had a low of about 4,000 and a high about 5,000. So it was only about a change of about that much. And so our biggest change was right here, which dropped about, let's see, how many blocks would that be? That would probably be about 250 blocks over, so it dropped about that 1,000 there over a day. So you still had that same drop, but this was a sustained drop that happened. So that means that over that time period, we were getting a lot, the network was producing a lot of the low end commitments over a large period of time over the full day. And that's when this would drop down here. Whereas, as I said, at that same period, so we'll just look at this first 2 block lines here. Those, compared to that, to the first 2 block lines, it dropped all the way down here and then back up to there. Whereas using a different system, it would accommodate that drop, but over a longer period of time, which gives it a more sustained. There, you don't have this drop coming all the way down here and then back up. It just averages over a longer period and says, well, yes, it's dropping, but it's dropping a little bit slowly, and then it raises itself back up.
Okay.
Other numbers, like if we use 180, you can see that it's still there. So I mean, if there's a concern like the network adjusting over 360 days is too much, well, here's how it will look under 180, and here's how it will look under 90. So it's just that the 24 just ends up creating a lot of this short-term fluctuations. And as I said, whereas the more blocks you have, the more that number smooths out over into a more even curve that more represents the moving average over time on that time period.
Okay. I think we will have in the future hard forks. I don't know when, but I probably think maybe half year or maybe year, and this can be changed for user experience. I mean, not especially for this stuff, but if we add something, and in addition, we can change this parameter too.
But as of right now, because as I said, we've had so many hard forks recently. Doing another hard fork so soon is not going to be good for the user experience in the first place. So something like this being added on to say the next major hard fork that has to be done anyway for new changes, because I know that I think we got a couple more SIPs in the system being looked at and discussed on. But this is something that can be done later on as an add-on to the next major hard fork that's happening. But for now, as long as the community realizes that these jumps are just short-term fluctuations due to how it's being calculated, and that over time it does smooth itself out, then hopefully we can change the perception of what the average commitment numbers are actually doing.
So main takeaway is commitment is fair, and all this fluctuations is only statistics stuff.
Yeah, it's just statistical noise due to the fact that we don't have the information that's coming here is basically, for all intents and purposes, random. And those random information for the minor averages causes the major fluctuations on the short time period.
Okay, we look for questions. Cyber, do you see any questions? I just have problems to look to live chat.
Of course, if Cyber's talking, we won't hear him.
I think he's out of keyboard. Away.
Oh, sorry, was muted. The only one I see that you haven't answered yet is from Adam Arrival, where he's asking if there's any insights or thoughts on multi-miners. So because I know right now you could dual mine Signum as well as BHD, and I think that's what he's referring to. It's kind of a broad question.
I am not in the team of developers, but it is not supported these chains which had problems with Burstcoin and later Signum. BHD take it our code, and of course our code is free software, but you need to have GPL free license. They just took and at first it was closed source, so it's stalled. Later they made it open source, but changed it license. It's about BHD. Later there is some multiverse actions, there is some discussions and ideas that by using our software you can create easy your coins and use BTDEX for quick exchanging them and other stuff, but I am not in dev team, so I cannot say. Can you answer, Valerius, what your opinion about this?
I will say that for me, though, can I just say one thing real quick?
Sure.
That's a bit of an insight for me. I didn't look much into it myself, but I had no idea that they were violating the license. That's
It is
hard to
old.
enforce.
It's a few years, maybe 3 years ago, 4. I don't know. We do not promote this them.
Yeah, and I understand why.
Yeah, that definitely brings the entire thing up. Because we're always wondering why that wasn't added onto like the BT Dex for exchange, given that in fact it was a coin to do that. But that makes a lot more sense now, and that answers a few questions on that. I do know that we've heard the talk about the multiverse for the Signum and such like that, and we, like, for example, on the BTFG farm, which we do mine on Signum, we do mine on the BHD, but we kind of like sell all the BHD and bring it back into the Signum network. So that all gets converted and brought back into the system here to be distributed to our miners. So we've heard about it, and we are looking forward to actually this multiverse and these other coins coming out. So I hope that comes out pretty soon, because there's a lot of people that are interested in multi-mining others like Signum approved coins, but just at this moment in time, the only thing you can multi-mine is BHD. Chia is not something you can multi-mine because they've made it so their plots are completely incompatible with everything, including their own hard drives. But yeah, we're definitely hoping that we get some word about the multiverse, Signum multiverse, and the ability to multi-mine in the future from the devs as well.
Yes, it is related to business cases, because when person offers some Signum solutions, there are many businesses who wants to run own coins or do not use Signum or have some other coin, and we can give this software, and Signum can get some kickbacks by doing exchanges and by promoting. So we will see how it will go, and probably we will have this later hard forks related to this multiverse stuff. And because our smart contracts and these coins will use same smart contracts, then our Signum smart contracts can communicate with other coins. There are many possibilities how it will work. Okay, probably we will finish on this. I would say that everyone from our community can do research, look to our code, have proposals, have ideas, and say them, and I don't know, get attention, and maybe help improve our Signum community movement, and it's not related only on software or this hardcore math stuff, but it's all related to marketing or like streams I do it now. Everyone can do such thing to speak about Signum, or I don't know, whatever they want. We will support this stuff. Okay, guys.